Ever notice how life's best stories don't happen in your living room? They happen on the open road, out on the water, or parked under the stars. At Progressive, they get that you want to focus on the experience, not worry about the what-ifs. That's why they offer quality insurance designed for your ride, whether that's a boat, RV, or motorcycle. Adventure with confidence. Visit Progressive.com and see how easy it is to protect your favorite way to get away. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in D.C. Prices vary based on how you buy.
Insurance isn't one size fits all. That's why customers have enjoyed Progressive's Name Your Price tool for years now. With the Name Your Price tool, you tell them what you want to pay, and they'll show you options that fit your budget. So whether you're picking out your first policy or just looking for something that works better for you and your family, they make it easy to see your options. Visit Progressive.com. Find a rate that works for you with the Name Your Price tool. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
What do flying fish, elephant seals, microRNA, leopard sharks, and shellfish have in common? Well, in today's episode, Dr. Carolina Bonin and Dr. Eric Lewallen join me. And yes, they've spent significant time studying all of those mentioned and much, much more. Now, they've studied these animals from the eastern tropical Pacific, Antarctica, and to the Chesapeake Bay. Now, here's some tidbits of information. Did you know that flying fish, they actually don't fly, they glide. Now, they build up their speed under the water to about 35 miles an hour, then they launch through the surface. Now, get this, the longest record glide is really about 1/4 mile, but Eric says they actually glide a lot farther. Now, the crazy thing is when they're fly gliding, my term, by the way, they're actually trying to get away from predators in the water. But as soon as they're in the air, they now have to face flying predators. So basically, their whole life is running away from something. Now, we do a deep dive and glide through all sorts of interesting characteristics of flying fish. Did you catch it? Did you know that the northern elephant seals were hunted to near extinction and the population was down to 20 or less? Yet, today there are hundreds of thousands. And crazier yet, they don't have any massive inbreeding. Both Carolina and Eric have done and are doing cutting-edge studies. So get ready as we cover tons of topics in this one. And guess what? The time is going to, wait for it, fly by as we glide through everything.
For real, 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 for real. Got a bunch of furry friends and I love them all the same. I'm an animal lover, veterinarian is the name. Let's share some pet stories from heartwarming to strange. Losses and games, from wacky to insane. For real. You're now tuned in to For Real with your host, Mark Kyle.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the For Real Podcast. Today is a fun one. I have the Lewallens here, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves to you, but we're going to start first with Carolina, and we're going to get into a bunch of stuff. So Carolina and Eric, both welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I'm glad to have you.
Thank you.
But I thought what we'd do, since we got both you guys on, we'll start with you, Carolina, because women always go first. In my house, I have 2 daughters. I guarantee they go first. But let's go with you. Let's talk about your journey to get where we're going to talk to today. We'll bring Eric in, and then we'll just kind of let it go the way it goes. How's that sound?
Sounds great.
Okay, so.
Well, my journey is, some people kind of go through life and there's a really straight path. Mine is very meandered a lot.
That's good.
So, yeah, I'm from Brazil originally. I was born in the U.S., but I grew up in Brazil. And then when I was like my 20s, I decided to move back here to apply for graduate school. I really wanted to be a marine biologist, applied, didn't get in. And then I tried again after a few years. I actually got a job at NOAA, Southwest Fisheries Science Center. I did some technician work there, and that was sort of my back door, or I'd say also my front door to graduate school. And then I finally joined Scripps Institution of Oceanography, and I worked on Antarctic fur seals for my PhD. So I had already been working on marine mammal genetics, but a few years back I had fallen in love with seals and sea lions. because they are really incredible creatures. And then that work sort of connected me to people that were in the US Antarctic program. They're called Antarctic Marine Living Resources Program at the time. So I did my PhD working on Antarctic fur seals. I had some really nice mentors, took me in the field. I spent a couple of seasons in the Antarctic with them, working with them. And then after I was done with my PhD, as a lot of people my generation, we were like confronted with this really harsh post-PhD situation, kind of scarce jobs, looking for opportunities. I had met my husband at the very end of my PhD, so we're both looking for jobs.
Yeah, I want to know how you guys met too. That was coming, trust me.
Yeah, that's a good story. And then I ended up doing a postdoctoral fellowship at the Mayo Clinic. So I had been working in genetics, but I needed more training, the next technology, next generation technology, as we call it. It was right around that time. And it was the only sort of path that I had to get some extra training. So I worked at Mayo Clinic for a couple of years, and then sort of away from marine biology. It was kind of harsh because very out of my comfort zone.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, it was a good thing. But then I had to make my way back into marine biology.
But let's pause for a second. So I want to talk about the Mayo stuff because, for you guys listening, I always get to talk to these guys before we start recording. And one of the things you were doing, you were studying the gene, basically trying to figure out the gene, DNA in the gene that actually causes osteoarthritis, basically. That was the main focus, I'm thinking. Is that true?
Yeah, so the lab that I worked on was really focused on, was one of the focus was osteoarthritis.
Uh-huh.
And we were just looking for, it's basically the very basic work behind drug discovery, looking at the genes, but also looking at the non-DNA molecular mechanisms that are behind shaping gene expression, or which genes are expressed.
Mm-hmm.
In this case was we call epigenetics or epigenetic regulation. And then that's what I studied. And so we're mining these data sets and these epigenetic regulators to see which ones were connected to the phenotype or the osteoarthritis disease in the knees of.
What I like about this, so for you guys listening, again, we were talking, and as most people who listen know that I work in the animal world, and what most people don't realize is that if you look at just your pet, if you look at cat, dogs, or whatever, animals get the same disease states that humans. So when you're actually, even though you're out of the sea life world, you're still in it, sort of. So you get to kind of figure it out, and you can transfer that over to what you're going to be doing once you move on to, the seals and stuff like that. So it's all relative. At the end of the day, it all breaks down. A car's a car. There's different types of cars, but a car's a car. They're all the same parts, and they all have the same issues. You just got to figure out how it transfers over to whatever that may be, whatever kind of car it is.
Yeah, and you're so right about that, because when I went back to marine biology, I actually started studying epigenetics of marine wildlife, the seals and sea lions. So I was actually able to somehow transfer over back to marine biology, but I kept some of that training that I had working on humans. So you're certainly right about that.
Well, it's very rare that I'm right about anything. So let's just, I'm glad, tell everybody, you guys all heard, I'm right this time. Anyways, so when you went back, where were you when you went back? I know you guys are in Hampton in Virginia now, but did you go back to Hampton? Is that where you went?
Yeah, so I went from California for my PhD to Minnesota, where we did our postdoc, and then we both applied and got a job here in Virginia. And it was crazy because we had never been to Virginia, and we got a job here.
Okay, so you said you're both. So let's get to the point how you guys met each other. I want to hear that story. We can make it small, but I want to know how you guys met, because you guys were science geeks, basically, I'm guessing. How did that work?
Do you want to hear from Eric, or do you want to hear from me?
Yeah, from you.
From me? Okay.
Well, they're sitting next to each other for everybody listening, so she can't say bad things because she'll get in trouble.
So essentially, I remember I mentioned those trips to the Antarctic to you during my PhD. One of these trips, I come back from it, and then Eric is sitting at my desk, my desk at work, and at that time it was a desk at the NOAA building in La Jolla where we both kind of had collaborators, and I was like, "Who is this guy?" And he had a giant beard, kind of looked a little rough, had this beard going on. And then I was like, "What are you doing?" And I don't have a desk anymore. And then apparently somebody had put him on my desk because I was gone for too long. And then we started talking. What else? Then we went out for lunch.
Yeah.
And then we stayed connected. But then Eric left. He went on the cruise.
Yeah, I went on a research cruise. And we stayed in touch by email, the ship-based email at that time.
So we were pen pals for a really long time.
Yeah.
Well, I guess what the story is, don't let somebody take your desk or let them take your desk. One of the two.
Exactly.
That's what we do. Anyways, now we got that. So now you applied to, and you got to Hampton, and Eric applied and got to Hampton as well. That's how it worked?
Yes, they had 2 positions open, and then one in the marine science department and one in the biology department. So we each applied and got interviewed, and we basically said, well, we can't go. We're in Minnesota right now. We can't go unless both of us get hired. And then
Okay, so let's pause there. Eric, you jump in now. Let's talk about your journey to get there.
Okay.
And by the way, just so you guys know where Hampton is right on the Chesapeake Bay, and it's one of my favorite places. But anyways, let's go with your journey.
Great. So thanks so much for having us. So I started out, I was interested in fish and fishing and snorkeling and scuba diving from a really young age.
Where'd you grow up at?
So I grew up in Minnesota, in Rochester.
Oh, really?
Yep, that's where I'm from. And so I decided to go to the University of Colorado for undergraduate. I had a really great mentor who happened to be studying hammerhead sharks at the time. And I got really interested in thinking about them and how they evolve. Got some lab techniques. Ended up doing a master's thesis with him. His name was Andrew Martin. And he actually kind of exposed me to the research world and understanding what that means and what it looks like and some of the career opportunities that are available within it. And that's how I kind of got interested in studying sharks. And I decided to go to the San Diego State University, where I worked with Todd Anderson and Andrew Bohonic to do a master's degree. And I was interested in looking at leopard sharks. I considered a bunch of different projects there, but I wanted to look at something that was kind of local and kind of an iconic species that a lot of people know about and are familiar with. They kind of hang around in the shallow waters. And even just recently, say last summer, I was able to take my own sons and go and snorkel with leopard sharks, which was really fun, kind of a fun way to close the loop. And then from there, I went to the University of Toronto in Ontario and worked with Nathan Lovejoy there. And he was looking at a lot of different cool projects dealing with fish evolution and biodiversity. And he inspired me to look at flying fishes and consider how they have evolved and become distributed in so many different places around the world. So that was the focus of my PhD project. Got a chance to go out to sea in a lot of different places and meet some really interesting people throughout those experiences. And as part of that, I kind of recognized that I needed to sharpen my skill set a bit and understand a little bit about how people are handling large human data sets, dealing with genomics and epigenomics and those sorts of things. And so that's kind of what inspired me to apply for a position as a postdoctoral researcher at Mayo Clinic again, being back at home in Rochester. Family support is always nice when you have little kids. We had, both of our sons were born there. And then, like Carolina mentioned, we were able to get an offer here at Hampton University to consider, developing out our own independent research programs. And the plan has basically been to kind of complement each other. And I've been mostly focusing on trying to get some research projects going with NIH and with other federal funding sources, and then bundling in some education type programs that can provide some interesting opportunities for students to do research with us. Meanwhile, trying to help support some of the projects that Carolina has been developing as well. So it's been a really fun partnership, and we've had some success with some of the projects, and then others have not, gone as smoothly as we would have hoped. But that's just the way things always seem to go. And we're excited about some of the opportunities that are upcoming in the near future, dealing with our current collaborators.
Well, the funny thing of science, you never know what you're going to get. I was talking to somebody recently that was studying the microbial issue with starfish wasting disease, and he was the guy that everybody thought figured it out. Everybody published his papers, and later on found out that wasn't the reason. And he put it out there, but
Yeah.
you never know where you're going to get.
Oh, it's a wild journey, and just not knowing exactly what's around the next corner, I think, is kind of part of what has drawn us into it, and that's part of the excitement. But at the same time, it can be part of the frustration and the challenge as well. It's just,
Well, the other thing is these days in particular, it's really hard to get funding too for a variety of reasons. But
yep.
I'm not going that direction. But
No, for sure. Yeah, and we're yeah. I mean, our basic approach is just to be persistent,
Right.
and just keep trying lots of things, diversify, and just keep at it. Work hard, and eventually the chips will fall where they need to.
Well, that's the only thing you can do. It's funny. I was talking to somebody. This is my forewarning, right? So, most people don't realize if you're a scientist or whatever you are in that field, it's always the next fund or grant you get to keep you going and put fuel in the tank.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking, and I was talking about teachers the other day, and I saw somebody. I can't remember how I heard about this, but it was a teacher somewhere. Had been teaching forever, but he was really good friends with a janitor, and they get talking, and turns out the janitor made more money than the teacher. That's just it's kind of back. I mean, not to say the janitor doesn't deserve it, but you're somebody that's teaching your kids something is not getting paid.
For real, 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 for real.
And we'll be right back. I want to tell you about something that's really cool. But first, let me set the stage for all you parents out there, new and old. Think about being so exhausted you can barely function. Now think about some of the chores you just want to do, especially when you're a new parent. Now how about this chore? Changing that stinky litter box. Yep, that one. Let's talk about Whisker's Litter Robot and how it eliminates that chore so you don't have to think about it. My daughter recently got her litter robot, and let me tell you, she's got a smile that's a mile wide. Life's busy, especially for new families. So, Whisker Litter Robot taking over the daily litter box duty? It's a breath of fresh air, literally. Maintain your cat's litter while focusing on your growing family and learning more about Whisker Litter Robot models and starter kits today to get set up before your new baby arrives. And take an additional $50 off bundles with code FORREAL when you shop whisker.com/forreal. Again, that's an additional $50 off bundles with code FORREAL at whisker.com/forreal.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
As a pet lover, did you know your pet can benefit from the incredible healing power of stem cell therapy? Prep Therapy offers a groundbreaking solution taken right from your pet's own blood. Say goodbye to joint pain, arthritis, kidney and liver conditions, and more. They'll experience faster recovery, increased vitality, and extended quality of life without the need for surgery or harmful drugs. Put the wag back in their tail and discover Prep Therapy today at PrepVet.com. Save 10% with promo code FurRealPodcast, covered by most pet insurance.
Let's do this. Let's go to seals. We'll go back and forth, I think, is what we're going to do, because I really want to talk about seals. There's a lot of things I want to talk about seals, because I love the babies, the pups. They're so cute. I did. Are you familiar? There's a seal sanctuary in England on the East Coast. I can't remember. It's a real famous one. I've had those on, and the family's had it forever, and they're just such a wonderful family and doing all these really cool things. So I love seals. I grew up in California, so I've been all along the coast with all the seals and stuff too. And plus, I've spent a lot of time down in Baja. So my life has been around the water. It's really my happy place. But I want to talk about the seals because I'm really curious for a variety of reasons. Is that in the 19th century when these guys, which direction I'm going, there were hardly anybody left because I think I may have told Eric I did an episode in the Vikita, which is the same idea. But let's go with you, and I want to talk into let's go there, interbreeding and all that kind of stuff. I think it's just really fascinating.
Yes, for sure. I love talking about seals. So you don't have to push me very hard.
I'm going to start barking like a seal here in a second, but I promise I won't.
So yeah, I worked first in the Antarctic fur seals, and they are, it's weird how they have their common names because they're actually in the same sea lion family. They have those external ears. These ones in the Antarctic, they have a very special fur. So just like you said, these guys were really hunted hard in the millions.
Right.
Crazy. And this area where I studied them for my PhD, which was in Livingstone Island and South Shetland Islands in the Antarctic, they were locally extirpated for a long time. So they were hunted down until they were locally extirpated, and the hunters keep coming back. So the population never recovered for a while. And then in the 60s, they started to come back.
They were down to like less than 20, right, at some point? Is that what it was?
Yes, that's true, yeah.
That's insane.
Insane.
I mean, if you go to any beach along the world where there's seals, there's hundreds of them. So that's crazy.
It's crazy, yeah. And then they bounced back tremendously in the 90s and up to mid 2000s. When I was doing my PhD, there were like 14,000 animals. It was a really nice, healthy population growing. And then in my lifetime, this population crashed. So just last week, actually, this population of Antarctic fur seals was listed as endangered because there's only 1,000 left now.
Wow.
So they kind of bounced back from hunting, and then now they're collapsing tremendously.
And why is that?
Well, we think there's a synergistic process going on. So there's more than one factor, but essentially the krill that they depend on has moved south.
Because of water temperature?
Yeah, I think it's associated to that, but people don't really know for sure. And also moving deep.
Mm-hmm.
And these seals are already at the far south range of what they can tolerate. And also they've been facing a lot of predation from leopard seals. And leopard seals, especially mid-2000s, they were eating them a lot to the point where, you're facing pressure from the top and pressure because there's not enough food.
Right.
So we think it's a combined issue, at least for this population. But the cool part, see, I can't stop once I talk about seals.
Oh no, trust me. There's so many ways we can go with this thing. I got you.
But the cool part is that, they're hunted by leopard seals. And I had collaborators and a really good friend of mine, Dr. Doug Krause, who had studied them for his PhD. And then that led me to the work on leopard seals, which I'm really excited about and currently working on more right now. Most of my projects are now on leopard seals. So I switched from the prey to the predator.
Yeah, well, they're apex predators too, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
Let's go back a little bit. There's one question when I was doing my homework for this thing. I read about when they went down to roughly 20 or less, and I forget what the term is, but basically they cleaned out all their bad genes. And then in theory, you would think because they're interbreeding that they would come back just like I said, my sister's my mother, my mother's my daughter, all that kind of stuff. I'm curious about the science behind that, and the theory is that all the markers or whatever the genes in there that they kind of cleaned them out and they started all over again. And I know that the males generally mate with somebody, but they don't remate with them; they mate with somebody else. So there is that part of it. Can you kind of go into that a little bit?
Of course, yeah. So for the Antarctic fur seals, I think it was more of the case we believe that they just recolonized from areas where the hunters couldn't get to. So that was a big thing in their favor. But there's one case that I want to mention that aligns more with what you're saying here, and that is the case with the northern elephant seals. Since you're probably familiar with them, California.
Sure.
They actually are the one sort of staple species where they got down to less than 50. But I have a collaborator that did a lot of genetics work on them. And you would think that there would be a lot of, they have very low genetic diversity, very low.
Right.
These animals, even nowadays after they've recovered, they're very, very low genetic diversity. But during the process of recovery, what his work shows is that actually a lot of the deleterious genes, or we call it like the genetic load, can get purged during the process. So actually, the population itself is quite healthy, even though they recovered from less than 50 animals and they nearly went extinct. They bounce back with very low genetic diversity, but they're actually pretty. There's nothing you can say in terms of their behavior today or their health today that speaks to that lack of genetic diversity.
But is it similar something like herd immunity? Is it similar to sort of like that? Or is that not anywhere close to that?
I think I see what you're saying, but I think in this case has to do more with this really, I'd say almost like evolutionary time scale.
Right.
Where you're talking about many, many, many generations where this process is occurring, where even though there's low genetic diversity, at the same time that they lost a lot of genetic diversity, they also lost a lot of the deleterious or the bad genes or the bad alleles, I should say, the bad.
Right.
So, yeah, so I think those would be more on those lines, more evolutionary time scale.
Yeah, it's fascinating because I'd never heard the term bottleneck, and that's when they get so little and they're forced into that thing and then they grow. And I'm just fascinated by all this stuff, actually. Tell me about something now. Sorry, I've got bad allergies with the weather we've been having here, but
I do too.
It's crazy. So you were in Antarctica?
So I was there during the time, for my PhD. I'd say I spent kind of 2 seasons down there. It would have been maybe 2008, 2009, and 2010, those 2 seasons there.
I get cold even thinking about it personally, but I know you were in Minnesota, but still, that's cold. And you're from Brazil. It's not cold down there either. So that's pretty crazy.
I know. Yeah. But we go in the summertime, and I got to be honest with you, because we go there in the summertime, a lot of the people that work there, the people that are really in the field a lot, they actually were saying that it was colder in the U.S. If you're like from,
oh yeah,
well, northern Ohio.
Oh,
or
sure
somewhere.
it is. Yeah.
Because I guess the thing that kills there is the wind. The wind is just always getting you. It's really high winds. But you can get some nice sunny days in the summer there.
Well, it's funny. I've talked to somebody on polar bears, and I've also talked to somebody who goes up there to the Arctic on narwhals.
Wow.
And so I've had an opportunity to talk to people. Every time I'm talking, I'm going, it sounds really cool, but I'm a warm weather guy. I mean, I'm happy to visit as long as I know I'm leaving soon. One of those things. For sure. Okay, so let's go back to Eric, and I'm going to put you guys together, and we'll bounce and do a bunch of stuff.
Okay.
So, Eric,
Yeah.
Let's go back to, let's talk flying fish. I know you're doing all kinds of stuff. Talk flying fish because I'm fascinated with them anyways. By the way, I don't know if I told you when we talked last time, I'm a private pilot too. So I love anything that's aerodynamic. So it's
Awesome.
kind of cool. And I love flying fish anyways. I just think they're cool.
Yeah, they're a fascinating group. I mean, they're super diverse. You know, there's definitely there's something more than 50 species formally described, and I have to guess there are many, many more than that just waiting to be described in museum collections and so forth. Basically globally distributed in tropical and subtropical waters. They seem to be a bit larger bodied the further away from the equator you get. So there's some, they can get up to maybe around a meter or so in length.
Really?
Yeah, there's some really just beefy ones that occur, say around, I want to say like around New Zealand and that sort of, South Pacific type of region. There's a few in California that get pretty big too, but nothing like that big.
Okay, so I have a question for you, and then we're going to get into all this, but here goes my mind again. So if it's a meter, which is it's 3 feet long, basically,
Yeah.
how far can they? They're not flying; they're gliding, and we can get into that too. But how far do they glide? Do they glide as far as some of the small ones do?
So I've never seen the really large bodied ones glide before. So I mean, it's a really good question about the constraints on
Yeah.
the extra body mass and that relationship. Yeah, but it seems like the smaller ones, they can go 400 or 500 meters for sure. I've seen them go further than that.
Right.
And those are the smaller ones that are say under a foot or so in size.
Right.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I honestly don't know the answer in terms of whether the larger bodied ones are more constrained in terms of what they can do. I would imagine it has a lot to do with say the amount of wind, the headwind that they're able to take off into.
Yeah, because they got to lift. They got to get the lift into the wind.
Exactly, the lift and the wave action as well will kind of predict how far they can make it.
Well, for you guys listening, the little guys, they swim up to 35 miles an hour or whatever. I wonder how fast those guys, because they're bigger. I wonder if they can swim faster.
Yeah, could be.
That's cool.
Yeah, really cool. And so they use, there's like an extension on the base of their tail that allows them to kind of use that as a little propeller, like what you'd think of in a normal, like an outboard motor kind of thing.
Right.
And they'll just flick that back and forth, and use that as a way to regain altitude if they start to lose it too.
Well, and I was thinking about when I was reading some of the stuff because you've got the two winged or two finned and the four finned or whatever you want to do, and the four fins are the ones that are really using kind of the tail, right? And I was thinking it's kind of like the tail in a plane because that's the same idea, that's the same concept, right? It's aerodynamics.
Yeah, definitely. So that ability to kind of bank and pitch and produce more, I guess, aerial maneuvers, certainly kind of the program with four-winged flying fishes. What's cool is that there's probably more formats as well. As I mentioned, that the diversity, there's probably a three-winged version and a five-winged version because some appear to be using their dorsal fin as an additional gliding surface, which is really cool.
Even cooler. And do they like, because it's basically fins that are a little bit bigger that they use to fly. Do they ever like lower a fin where they're turning in that, or do this is just a straight thing typically?
They will, yeah. They'll mimic like the ailerons and that sort of thing in the in the flying world. Yeah, definitely. And there's some people that think that those different strategies may have evolved as an adaptation to different types of predators.
Right.
Things that mahis versus tunas versus, if they're getting aerial attacks from seabirds, for example, it could be that there's certain areas of the world where it's more beneficial for longer periods of time to be able to, perform those maneuvers in midair.
Well, the crazy thing is that when I was reading that stuff, so basically the reason they're launching is they're getting away from a predator and expand upon that. But the crazy thing is, they jump into the air, they fly into the air, and they got predators in there. They got predators everywhere they go, the poor guys.
Yeah, no, they're definitely getting it from above and below. What's interesting is they, carrying around these elongated fins means that it comes at a cost with their swimming abilities. They don't seem to be able to, aside from this maneuver of taking off and actually, accomplishing the glides, they don't seem to be able to swim very well. So like when you're, watching them just in the dip netting stations, it's almost like the fins when they're tucked back, particularly the pectoral fins, it seems to almost get in the way of their tail fin, beats, which is kind of interesting.
So I wonder if they just adapted, learning that they just happen to have that body type, and they adapted and said, well, it may be better if we just jump out in the air and just get out of here. We can actually go faster. That's crazy.
Get out of there, yeah. And there's really nowhere to hide in the open ocean.
Yeah.
If you think about it, I mean, there's a few exceptions, of course, if, there's some debris that floats out there, but for the most part, they're just completely exposed out there. And if, there's predators around that are, looking to prey on them, they have very few opportunities to fight back or, get away within the water. So, taking to the air seems like a decent plan.
Well, the other crazy thing is when they're in the air, they can't breathe. So they're holding their breath the entire time they're in the air, too. Those guys got a hell of a life. It sounds really horrible.
Yeah.
I'm getting chased here, I can't breathe up there. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, they're pretty remarkable creatures. There's no doubt.
So tell me about the baby small fish. And that's pretty cool what they do, too. I love science.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so what's interesting about this group is that they change over the course of their development. So the larvae often look super different from, juveniles and adults of one species. And then similarly, they'll look super different than the larvae and adults of another species, even closely related. And some of them will have these, elongated mouth structures called barbels that, they're presumably using to sense, prey items or other things in the water column. But they can sometimes also look, it's almost as if they're mimicking other creatures along the surface, say like a, sea slug type of format.
Right.
Where they look, they'll look a lot like a moth, for example, if you shine a light on them at night.
Right.
And so what the specific adaptations are for all those different patterns and colors and structures, it's not immediately clear.
Yeah, because the one thing I read was on the babies, they kind of grow these, it makes it look like a little plant that's floating around, so they're hiding from the predator. It made me think of kind of like octopus, who, can change color and look like the clouds above or whatever, the same kind of idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Being able to tuck into sargassum type,
Yeah.
Floating debris like that and just hide out and basically not move.
Yeah.
And hope that that's enough as a way of, being cryptic or hiding away from it.
For real, 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 for real.
And we'll be right back.
As a pet lover, did you know your pet can benefit from the incredible healing power of stem cell therapy? Prep Therapy offers a groundbreaking solution taken right from your pet's own blood. Say goodbye to joint pain, arthritis, kidney and liver conditions, and more. They'll experience faster recovery, increased vitality, and extended quality of life without the need for surgery or harmful drugs. Put the wag back in their tail and discover Prep Therapy today at prepvet.com. Save 10% with promo code FurRealPodcast, covered by most pet insurance.
So let's combine you guys, and I want to get into microRNA. I want to get in. Let's go wherever. Let's go down the road to wherever we want to go, because you guys are doing some really cool stuff. One of the things, and I want to get into microRNA, but I want to just address something, because I'm finding the more that I talk to people like yourself, and the more I read, and that DNA is just exploded in the last several years, because you used to only had so many you can do. Now it's 128 or 120 or whatever. How is that affecting you guys are all over the place, but I know you're doing the microRNA, which is related to DNA, and I know you were doing the DNA on the osteoarthritis. Walk me through what you guys are seeing and what the potential that you may see. Here's my really zinger, with the potential you may see with all the stuff you're doing, because I just think it's so cool.
So The basic, yeah, the basic idea is the crossover between, say, biomedical sciences and natural sciences, in the sense that, biomedical sciences have lots of fascinating technologies that allow for, say, biomarker discovery, for example, that can be used to inform different disease processes or states or patterns that you see in humans.
Right.
And then we're trying to think carefully about whether some of those technologies and some of those discoveries can be applied directly to wildlife, and in our case, marine life. And so microRNAs are just one kind of group of those types of biomarkers that we're thinking about. And part of what I think got us onto that was when we were doing our postdoctoral work, we were interacting with all kinds of super high level scientists that had made the discovery that microRNAs are kind of resilient to degradation. So they don't seem to break apart at the same rate that you might think of, say, for other types of RNAs, like messenger RNA, for example. Certainly, proteins break down, much more rapidly.
Right.
And so this observation that, say for, tumor samples, for example, that have been stored in like formalin-fixed paraffin-embedded blocks, which is what they typically do, the microRNAs seem to stay intact in a lot of those tissues. And so we thought to ourselves, well, this could be a cool sort of application for understanding, biomarker classes in remotely distributed, difficult to access creatures like those in Antarctica or in the open ocean. And we might be able to sort of use those classes of biomarkers to address questions that were previously not possible to answer within those contexts.
Well, we were talking ahead of time before we recorded. So if you think about mRNA, which everybody would, if you weren't paying attention during COVID, that was where all the vaccines were, right? And have you guys read Codebreaker by any chance, Walter Isaacson's thing? You ought to read it. You guys will be really fascinated how they come up with that. Isaacson's a good writer, but it's all about the guys that actually broke the codes and all that. It's called Codebreaker. But anyway, so mRNA means messenger RNA, and so it's sending messages and doing whatever. But microRNA is shutting down. Walk me through. It basically is saying, no, don't do this at the end of the day, right? It's like a stop sign.
Yeah, I have a good analogy that I can
Perfect.
use perhaps.
I need it.
But I tell my students sometimes, I think about microRNA as sort of the Pac-Man
Okay.
of the cells. So the message is trying to be passed along, but Pac-Man comes around,
Right.
catches that message and destroys it, so it can no longer be translated forward, can no longer be passed forward and translated into protein,
Uh-huh.
which is the fate of a lot of the messenger RNA.
So, when you talk about, I know this is an animal podcast, like we're going there. So we like autoimmune disease where your body works against itself, right? And so I love that some of the drugs out there, what they're doing is they're coating whatever it is, what they think they're eating a bad thing when it's actually a good thing. It coats it so they don't. It basically camouflages it so they don't know that Then that's how some of the drugs are working.
That's true.
Which I think what I like about this Pac-Man idea or the microRNA. So if you've got something that's not working well, if you can shut down that messenger and say we're going to work better now, we're going to shut this down. I just think the opportunity, or it's just endless now, and especially where I listened to somebody talking recently about science. Science historically kind of goes in a big upward curve. It kind of flattens off. And right now we're in this really major thing because everything's happening so fast. If you combine AI with all the other stuff and all the other things to access, I think we're just in for this explosion of all these new things that are just fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the applications of AI within this field are particularly exciting and potentially, have real potential to make kind of put a positive spin on some of the potential for discovery. So being able to, assign different agents, you can have a crew of robots that are working on trying to
Right.
explain theoretical interactions that can then be tested either in cell models or in animal models in a kind of a preclinical sort of setup, you know?
Yeah, well, I know the negative sides of it. I know everybody's concerned with the negative sides, but the positive side is no human can work as fast as that. And not to say it's always right, but it gets you way ahead of the game where you can go back and actually check it. And it's also thinking directions you wouldn't think. Wow, what's that possibility? You never know. And I use AI regularly, and I've been doing it for a while before everybody kind of knew what it was, and I still feel so far behind it on it. I'd love to know how I do different agents to do different things for me and tasks that I don't want to do. That kind of stuff too.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So let's talk animals some more because we're an animal podcast. So have you guys worked together on any animals to any sea life together? And what was that? And how was that working together? I know he already stole your desk, so let's hear what else he's done.
Yeah, so leopard seals.
Yeah, we work. We have a grant together now, which is so we have a grant, an NSF grant on leopard seals,
Uh-huh.
and that one is studying the genome of the leopard seal
Okay.
and comparing it to another seal species that's sort of the sister species to the leopard seal, which is the Weddell seal. So they're sister species. The Weddell seal is just super cute and nice and feeds on fish, a little krill here and there. And then the leopard seal also feeds on fish and krill, but is the only other seal that eats other marine mammals,
So when you're studying at the genome, walk me through what that means and for everybody else who's listening. So what specifically are you trying to accomplish when you're doing that?
Yeah, so think about it as the genome as the blueprint of a house, right? So, and it doesn't determine everything that you're going to be, but it's an important determinant.
Right.
And then, so what we can do is look at the differences of what these seals can do, or their adaptations of what the things that they can do, and then try to look for cues on that on the blueprint.
Okay.
And by doing so, we can learn a little bit more of what drove them to become different species, for example.
Right.
Because their ancestor was in the Antarctic waters. They share the same habitat. So it's a little mysterious. Okay, you have the same environment. You have this ancestor living there. What made the leopard seal become the leopard seal and the Weddell seal become the Weddell seal? And learning that, I think, is our hope, that we understand a little bit more how animals respond to change in their environment, how fast they respond,
Well, that was where I was thinking. So if you learn that, basically you're probably learning how to also protect them, what worked best for them as they got there and how they went down that path. Is that one of the big benefits from that standpoint, especially, I guess, with the changing climate and things like that, so they adapt, so you can see how they adapted before? Is that kind of part of that?
Completely, yes. So we have some we have some cues that tell us that maybe the Weddell seal is more of an ice specialist.
Uh-huh.
And then we can look for cues of that, really strong signatures of that in the genome of the Weddell seal. That is an animal that's been that thrives in the cold and depends on the cold. But maybe that's not the case. Well, that's what we're trying to figure out. So maybe in a year or so, I'll have more definite answers here. But what we're seeing is perhaps just some inclination that the leopard seal is not the case. It depends on the ice to breed. It depends on the ice for sure, but maybe it's a little more flexible animal. You don't have such a strong signature in the past of the leopard seal of being so attached to this really, 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 southern ocean fast ice that we call. It's more of an animal that's more adapted to this more fluid environment. And then so much so that you find them. You find them in areas like New Zealand. You find them in Chile, so they can even breed. Reproducing there has not gone very well for them, but you can find them in areas that are a lot warmer than the Antarctic pack ice.
Well, I would think that you're seeing that with almost all the species now. If you think about like polar bears, because the ice is so much smaller And now they're going into land a lot more on the mainland versus the little islands and stuff now because it's farther away and they're adapting. I'm just thinking about all the different people. I did a deal with the pink dolphins down in Amazon in your part of the world. And the theory is that they came in from the ocean and now they're in estuaries and also freshwater. They've adapted to that, and over the generations and the way they've done that is pretty wild. I love all the old stories about what they think they really are. That's pretty funny, in the Amazon in particular.
Yes, for sure.
So what else? What did we miss? A million things. I know that, but what? I know one of the things when Eric and I talked early on, we talked about, and I'm really a big proponent of this. What can you, for the listeners, because we have a lot of families that listen too, let's talk about for kids and science and that. I'm a big proponent of whatever kids can do and learn something for, what's out there. What would you want to talk to people based on your journey and all that may be beneficial for some kids that are out there that want to learn about, leopard. See, one of you guys is a seal. The other one's a leopard. I'm not quite sure which two of you guys are. But anyways, when kids want to learn about, they find some weird, I have an episode coming out next week of a guy who studies praying mantis. And he started studying when he was 6 years old. And this is kind of along with what I'm talking about. He became fascinated, and he, in 2019, found his own species of mantis. I think, oh my God, what a great dream for people like yourself and him. So it's possible, and I encourage it. So you guys, I'll shut up.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a great time to be taking advantage of things that are local as well. So I mean, that's one positive outcome of say the pandemic. I mean, realizing that there's all kinds of really cool things that can be either in the backyard or at the local park or at the local state park. There's all kinds of places that aren't that far away where you can find examples of wildlife that can potentially be really inspiring to anybody that would potentially be interested in biology or other types of natural science for sure. And that's something that we try to do with the kids from time to time. If for no other reason, it helps them kind of find that balance between the digital world and the natural world. And just trying to straddle that line in a way that's healthy and that can kind of allow people to think about different ways of making discoveries, I think is a really reasonable place to start. Not everybody has to, hop on the next plane and go to Antarctica. It wouldn't really even be possible if that were the plan.
Don't worry about it. I'm not.
Yeah, but it's possible to work your way up to that kind of thing.
Yeah, sure.
And just little by little. I mean, every time there's a rain here in Virginia, there's all kinds of creatures that crawl out of the soil, and just getting out there and getting some dirt under your fingernails is, I think, a really healthy thing.
And getting outside.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Fresh air is good for everybody.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say too, like this nurturing of your inner kid inside of you. When you really think about it, I think kids have that. They're kind of little scientists in their own way because they observe something, immediately started asking questions, and I think we gotta help nurture our kids so they don't lose that. Independent of what career path you choose, I think there's a healthy side of nurturing that and not squelching that. Just making sure your kids get to ask the questions and get to observe and entertaining that, I think, is really important.
Well, when I originally contacted you guys, I am insatiably curious. I am a big child. Obviously, my maturity proves it. But, it's so much more fun. It's funny. Are you guys, so here, I'm in Austin, Texas. And so we're really famous for the urban bat thing here.
Mm-hmm.
So Merlin Tuttle's probably the most world-renowned bat guy, right? And Merlin's probably in his 80s. He's been on the show as well. It's funny, I met him on a plane one time years ago, and he's still like a big kid. But when he was little, and this is for you guys that are listening too, he was living, I think, in Tennessee or someplace like in that area, and he found this bat cave. Was really interested in paying attention. And he was a little kid, kept going and going. And when he was, I think, in 10 or 11, there was some stuff thought about bats, and he talked his mom. This is a true story. Talked his mom to drive him to the Smithsonian, and he's like 10, 11, or 12 years old. They meet some guy, and he's already fascinated about it because he kept doing it. And they went back and they changed everything that he found because, the one thing great about kids are you don't know what you don't know. So you're going to go ahead and try something because you just don't know. Somebody says no to you. You say, well, wait a minute, I solved this. So there's all that kind of stuff that ties along. But he started doing it. He's been doing it his entire life, and he's the bat guy. It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a good point about the urban interface too. I mean, there's all kinds of examples of creatures that have adapted to really urbanized areas that
Sure. Coyotes.
Yeah, exactly. And even examples of things that are kind of everyday examples of life that we see on our way to work or driving around.
Right.
And there's basic things that we don't know about some of those creatures, which is kind of an amazing thing to realize when you're coming up.
Well, if you think about Chicago, I know we're off topic a little bit, but in Chicago, they've got the biggest urban coyote population. If you go to Chicago, you've seen a coyote be a miracle because they basically blend in, they hide, behind pallets and things like that. But there's like 6,000 coyotes that live in the city of Chicago. So they're there. My daughter came here the other night. We were talking. It was nighttime, and there's a park right next to my house. And sure enough, I see a fox go running by, and I'm in a city. And they're here. They're definitely here.
Definitely.
I think we're kind of winding down. If people want to find you guys, is there any or what you're doing or anything like that, or do you have some way? And by the way, for anybody listening, whatever we get, I'll have it in the description. It will be in the description if you're listening now, but. Can you give anybody like some websites or anything else that you may want to point people to that would be really cool? Hampton College, whatever, Hampton University, whatever you want to do.
Sure. Yeah, the Hampton University website is the way to go. Department of Biological Sciences for me and Marine and Environmental Sciences for her.
Yeah.
You can find us, and that's where our professional email addresses are. And feel free to reach out to us.
I have a lab website too, and my lab is called Mammal.
Oh, I wanted to talk about that. Every scientist I meet, their lab is always like the guy I was talking about, the robophysics. His is crab. Yours is mammal. It's crab. You guys so dial that in. I love acronyms, and that's pretty funny.
Yeah. So, Mammal Lab, and then you could just Google that. And there's some information there also about our projects. We also recruit, master students sometimes.
Great.
From all over the place. So,
well, again, for everybody listening, go to the description of the podcast, and all this information will be in there. So now we're at that point because what I've heard, just for you guys listener, that Eric is a really great joke teller. He's famous in Hampton for sure. Anyways, but for everybody listening, before we do this, as I always say, if you want to be on the show and if you've got a joke, if you want your grandkids, your nieces, nephews, and you want to be part of the show, if you email me at mkyleforrealpodcast.com, I'll put you on gladly. And I guarantee Eric would have been really glad if I had somebody so he didn't have to tell the joke. But anyways, guys, please do. But let's hear your joke, Eric. I'm really excited to hear your great joke.
So why are flying fishes good mediators?
You're killing me. Why are flying fish good mediators? I have no idea. Why are they?
Because they see both sides of any argument.
Wow, that's a great one. Where did you find that one? It's awesome. Okay. Are you going to say one or not, Carolina? Are you done?
I'm just terrible. I can't.
Okay, here's one more, guys.
How do you make an octopus laugh?
How do you make an octopus laugh? I don't know how.
10 tickles.
Oh, I like that one. That's a good one. I like that one.
All right, one more about octopuses because they're maybe the coolest creatures out there.
Oh, we're going to talk when we get done. I got to tell you a bunch of cool stuff about that.
Yeah. Why did the octopus pull back from the soccer game?
Why did the octopus? Because it was in the 10th inning?
Because it pulled a muscle.
Oh, God. Okay. Oh, see, he likes it. He's actually wasn't disappointed I didn't have a kid on. Anyway, hey, guys, thanks so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I loved having both you guys on. It was kind of fun to play against, the leopard and the seal at the desk and all that. But really, thanks so much for being on the show.
Thanks
for having us.
Appreciate it very much.
It was really fun talking to you.
It's been really, really fun for me. And then for everybody else who's out there listening, keep listening. You guys are the ones that help me get the guests, because the more that you listen, the more people find out about the podcast. It grows and people are willing to tolerate me doing my thing. But, again, if you've got ideas also or whatever, just email me but follow and keep listening. But really, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for listening. For real.
That concludes this episode of For Real with your host, Mark Kyle. For previous and future episodes of For Real, listen via all major podcast streaming sites.